Hi, guys. Welcome to the Global Church Without Borders. Just as Dr. Charles Apoki would always emphasize in his videos whenever he's talking about things pertaining the Bible and the kingdom of God. Now, on today's episode, we are going to talk about something very delicate that a lot of people are not certain about. We all hear that God is all-knowing and He knows the end from the beginning. He knows everything that's going to happen. Now the thing is, if God knows that, or if God knows everything that's going to happen, then what's the point of living? Like, if God knew that Adam and Eve were going to touch the fruit, why did He put the fruit in the middle of the garden and put them not to touch it? Now, as I studied the Bible, I came to realize that even though God is all-knowing, He knows every possible decision that you might take and has prepared for each outcome. But He doesn't know what decision you actually take. That is why He gave free will. So the free will is actually free. So it's not like you are programmed like a robot and you don't have free will and you are programmed to do this and do that. Otherwise, it would be like, so God intentionally made people poor and made some people rich. No. If someone is poor or someone comes from a poor background, it is because the person's ancestors or foundation was built on poverty. And that foundation that was built on poverty was a decision the person's ancestors made, which is now affecting the person in his present time. And because he has also grown up in that mentality of poverty, it becomes hard for the person to break out of that mentality of poverty. But it is possible for the person to break out. It only takes a decision. So it's not God that will say, okay, you be poor, you be rich. No, it's a decision. You make the decision yourself. And He doesn't know what decision you make. All He knows is you can either choose to be rich or you can either choose to be poor. And in whichever decision you make, He has prepared for the outcome and knows how to work things around to get you to your predestination. And the predestination for every human being is life and life abundance. So the end goal is everyone should be able to have life, and live it abundantly. But your decisions will determine whether you attain that life abundance quickly or later. So, yes, God knows everything, but He doesn't know the decisions you actually make at a certain time. But He knows the possible decisions you might make and has made provision or is ready for whichever outcome. So, yes, God created Adam and Eve, put them in a garden, put a tree in the middle and told them not to eat it. It was just to test their free will, because He has made them like Himself. So they have to choose God. They have to choose Him. He doesn't have to force Himself on them. So, yes, God is all-knowing, but God did not actually know or was not actually certain as to whether Adam and Eve were going to disobey Him or they were going to do what He said. So He knows that they can either choose to obey him, or they can choose not to obey him. Whichever case or whichever scenario they choose, he has made provision for them. So he has already made provision for if they decide to disobey him. That is why before he began the foundation of the world, he had already prepared things. So Jesus had already died before God came to say, I'm coming to create the earth and create man and all those things. That's why you hear the lamb was slain before the foundations of it was a preparation. Like, God knew that it is possible for man to decide against him. And when that happens, there must be a plan to rescue man. So he has already set that plan there. It's there written. But he has given them a choice. You can either continue, you can either do what I say, choose me, that's what he's saying, or you can, or whichever decision you choose, I've made a plan for your rescue. So it was up to Adam and Eve to decide not to touch the tree. And if they had not touched the tree, that would have honored God in whatever way. But even though they touched the tree, there was provision. So your decisions are not known to God. What is known to God is your possible decisions. And in every decision every possible decision that you might take, God knows every possible decision that you might take, and has prepared for each outcome. So, for instance, God knows all possibilities. So God knows every possible choice you could make, even before you make it. So when you look at Psalm 139 verse 4, it says that even before a word is on my tongue, behold, O Lord, you know it all together. So to give a scenario, it's like, imagine a student deciding whether to study for an important exam or play video games. God already knows both paths. The decision, either to study or the good decision, that's to study, or the bad decision to play video games. He knows each outcome. But he doesn't force the students to choose one. It depends on the student. So if the student decides to study and learn, it has aligned with the predestination of the child. If the student decides not to learn, God will use that mistake to turn things around. So we realize that that's in Romans 8 verse 28. It says, and we know that all things work, or we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. So whichever decision you take, so as long as you love God, or you are with him, everything he works out for your good. So even your bad decisions, that's why he says he uses the foolishness of man to confirm wisdom. So if the child decided not to study and then played video games, and then the time came for exam and he failed, that failure will now become wisdom for the child, that next time I'd rather study instead of playing games so that I can pass the exam. So you see that in the end, the foolishness of that child has now become wisdom for the child, because now he knows that if I don't study, I'll fail. So now he studies. So now the decision is his to make. It's not God. The predestination has been set that you are supposed to pass this exam, or you have to pass this exam and move to the next stage. If you fail the exam, it doesn't mean that you will not eventually move to the next stage. The thing is, okay, you have failed the exam. What did you learn out of failing the exam? I learned that when I played the video games, it didn't make me steady. It didn't prepare me for the exam. So next time, I will study instead of playing video games so that I'm prepared to write the exam and pass. So now it becomes his decision. It's not God. But the predestination has been set. The predestination is he has passed the exam. As to what happened before he passed the exam, it is dependent on the child. So God knows everything. He is all-knowing, but he doesn't know the decision you actually make. But whichever decision you make, he has prepared for that outcome. So if there are about 5,000 decisions that you could make towards let's say a predestined outcome, whichever decision you make out of the 5,000, God knows whichever you could make, but he doesn't know which one you actually choose. But whichever you choose, he has made provision for it. Now, humans have real choices, like I said. So the point is, you are responsible for the decisions you make. God does not force your will. When you look at Deuteronomy 30 verse 19, it says, I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life. He's telling you, there's life and death that has been set before you. But he's advising you, choose life. But it is you that will decide whether you choose life or you choose death. That one is not his decision to make. It is your decision to make. So yes, God knows. God knows you could choose life. He knows you could choose death. Whichever you make, he has prepared for the outcome. Now, one thing you must also know is your choices shape your destiny. So while God knows the possibilities, your choices determine the path and experiences. That is why in Galatians 6 verse 7, it says, do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. So whatever decision you take, you reap the results. When you reap the result, if it is good, you move on to the next stage. If it is bad, you gain wisdom to do better the next time. So the decision is yours. So you see, it's like when you are predestined to go north and you end up going south, east, west. It is possible you could go south, east, west. Whichever decision you make, God has made provision for your recalibration or re-navigation back to north. So if you find yourself going south when you're supposed to go north, you see, it's like a GPS. It's like life is like a GPS. You are going to Medina. You set the destination at Medina. But then you could go, let's say you are standing at, let's say, Pantai Junction.